This is Limited Supply, the place for refreshingly real takes on what D2C is really like.
We're your hosts, Nick and Moiz. Let's start talking about money.
Hundreds of direct-to-consumer brands use Tatari's platform to buy and measure TV ads just like digital. They have deep publisher relationships that give you the best CPMs on linear and streaming TV. Check out their 3-minute demo video at tatari.tv/limited supply.
Nick, episode 3, themed season 5.
I'm excited. We've both got fresh cut beards.
That's right. Yeah, I did do this yesterday. Okay. Theme of today is current events when it comes to e-commerce.
Yeah.
We both brought in some topics today. I don't know what your topics are. I've got my own sheet. You don't know what my topics are.
No.
Mine are gold. So let's start with one of yours. I'm curious to hear, what's a current event in e-commerce that's important to you right now, and tell me about it.
So I would say, have you heard about the upcoming iOS 17 change?
No.
Okay, so
There's another. God,
there's
these guys are prolific.
So they do it, of course, in the name of privacy.
Yes.
The press release that Apple put out in June talked about it a little bit, and they position everything as like, this is the best for you. We're protecting you as our user.
Yeah.
They show examples.
Yeah, that's why I buy the iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. They show examples of like when an app tries to get access to your photos, it'll now tell you how many photos you're sharing. So it'll show you like, oh, you're about to share 47,000 photos, even though it doesn't really mean you're sharing them. It's just like opening.
They have access to it. Yeah.
So anyways, there is a thing called LTP, link tracking protection. Any idea what this is?
Yes. I think this is going to screw Facebook again.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. Or is it just like, it eliminates UTM parameters? Is that what it does?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So that's exactly what it does.
That's deadly. Are they crazy?
It's mainly in mail, messages, and Safari. So if you click links in Safari, which I think this is going to completely fuck affiliates. I'm pretty sure.
Ooh.
That was my first thought, is affiliates can be completely screwed here, especially affiliates that send via email. You imagine sending an offer to a supplement or a skincare product to 100,000 people.
The guy clicks the link and the UTM parameters from the link gone. Okay.
So that's basically the update, is that they're getting rid of that.
Aren't they keeping like one UTM parameter? Aren't they letting you stay?
I didn't see that. Okay, that's what I thought as well. Yeah. I couldn't find that. That might be true.
Okay.
Some people have done some early testing and found that when people, so again, it's mainly mail and iMessage. When links were sent, a Facebook link, Google ad link, and a HubSpot tracking link were sent, they were removed. However, the parameters were not removed in the beta version of iOS 17 for a Klaviyo link, a TikTok click ID link, and a MailChimp link. So it could just be that it's the beta and like the final version will be out, which is my guess. But I started to think, okay, how do you fix this? And I think...
So I'm sorry, before we talk about how to fix it, yes, this messes up affiliates. This messes up us when it comes to emails, because we're like,
definitely SMS gone.
Yeah, SMS, you're like, okay, I can't understand tracking because the UTM parameters are gone. Email, I can't understand how many transactions it's got because UTM parameters are gone. And I imagine that's how Klaviyo does its own data. Mm-hmm. Look, are there any cookies involved when you click a link in an email and get to your site? Like, is there any cookie that like can save people here, or is that also eliminated?
I think technically you could click a link. It goes to a blank page that fires your pixel and then immediately redirects to whatever the other link is. So I think that's one way to fix it. But I think redirects is basically the way to fix it. So for example, when you send a text, it would be, Haven Athletics /SMS Saturday 1. And when that gets clicked, there's no parameters at the end of that. But in Safari, then it'll redirect
and
itself.
Add the parameters.
Although I wonder if in Safari, if that would still cut it, because it's like technically a redirect.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That is, it's crazy how little information there is until the stuff comes out. Like I'm surprised Shopify doesn't announce, here's the update, or Facebook or Klaviyo. Here are the updates that you need to worry about for iOS 17.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit surprising.
One way this could actually work is if there is a plugin or a tool in Shopify that helped you duplicate product pages or any page you're trying to send traffic to, you could isolate traffic and conversions
to every single
as a last
page.
click way.
So,
But
yeah.
you wouldn't get like the overall halo from it. Like you wouldn't get the unattributed non-last click tracking.
So basically, you have 40 UTM parameters across your 40 Facebook ads, and so you have to have 40 PDPs. So everyone knows, like each ad goes to a separate PDP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which in theory works, but that also causes sites to just break so fast.
Well, yeah, because also if you're updating a product, now you have to update 40 PDPs.
Everywhere.
But if there was like a parent PDP that Shopify created,
right,
that you could break it into 40 children PDPs and make changes there.
That could work.
That's interesting. I thought that there was like one UTM parameter would be alive.
But that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I read that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I was trying to find that again, and I couldn't find it. So I don't know if they changed that or
UTM parameters are really dangerous because, like, you know, I can run a Facebook ad and I can see you click this Facebook ad. You know, I know exactly who you are, what you did, like, you know, what gets you excited. And so I understand where Apple's coming from this more than I understand from Facebook, like iOS 14.5.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like they're making e-commerce harder and harder at every turn that they can.
Yeah.
And I wonder how Klaviyo gets around this, because Klaviyo is not like, you can't have, well, I guess you could have one PDP for a Klaviyo email, but every flow would have a separate PDP then. Like every flow email would be, again, think about if you've got like a big store and you've got like, you know, 20 product, or like, you know, not even 20 products, 100 products. If you're
2,000
apparel company, right? You now have to, I guess you'd have, like, every flow would have different SKUs and you'd have to have different PDPs. Like, I mean, it would get so unwieldy so fast.
Yeah, I think it'll bring back two things. Well, not bring back, it'll get two things going. One is the use of coupon codes. I think any brands that think they're not discount brands are going to have to start using it for attribution.
God,
and I think
that's terrible.
Yeah, and I think secondly, it'll lead to a lot more lead gen within e-com. A lot of landing pages where you enter your email and get a discount specific to you versus, you know, like automatic code applied.
The hard part is that, like, even if there's coupon codes, okay, I sent out an email and that coupon code makes sense. Facebook ads, you know, you're running 400, 500 Facebook ads at any given time.
Yeah.
You've got 400, 500 coupon. Every time you create an ad, you've got to create a new coupon code. And the way you
I'm even thinking like you get to the landing page.
Yeah.
You're about to purchase, you enter your email for a code, you get a unique code sent to you, and then use that.
And how does that help you understand what Facebook ad is the one that worked well?
It wouldn't solve the Facebook. It might solve like email and SMS.
Yeah.
Facebook is still going to be tough.
Yeah, and I think that's what, you know, 80% of people care about. Because, like, I'm going to send out that email, whether I have the attribution or not, I don't care. Like, you know, it's going to be earning me revenue. I know it earns me revenue. And it costs me very little. Yeah. SMS, a little bit, like, I think both of those are true, but less true because it costs more money.
Right.
Facebook is where I'm like, look, I just spent $10,000. I need to understand which one of these ads worked. I'm running 200
did it
ads.
work? Yes.
Yeah.
Which one worked?
Yeah. Like, which one am I supposed to scale? And that is really scary.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Any other changes that are happening on iOS 17? Or big ones that we should talk about?
Yeah, I don't think related to e-commerce or this stuff, but that was the one that I'm not excited about.
Yeah, one thing that happened when iOS 14.5 came out, everyone was like, okay, it came out in like July or August at one point, and everyone was like, oh no, it's going to be the end of the world. And for 3 months, it wasn't the end of the world, and everyone's like, okay, maybe it's perfectly fine. And what I found out later on was that Apple didn't push or force you to update to iOS 14.5. It didn't update you automatically just when you plugged in your iPhone at night. It did that when you got to like iOS 14.9 or something.
Yeah.
And so actually iOS 14.5, only like 20% of people had downloaded it by October, November. But then they updated it again. And basically you didn't even know you were going to get an update. You just plugged in your phone and went to bed, and Apple automatically updates your iPhone now. And so that one they required, that one they pushed and sort of forced on everyone. Yeah. And so iOS 14.5 changes ultimately happened in like October and November of, I think it was 2021 now. So I want, like, I guess when iOS 17 launches, people might be like, oh, I guess it's not so bad. It could get worse.
Yeah,
like, you know, it could get worse because, it's just a function of do they force people to download or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's switch to something I've got, which is Amazon. I read this crazy thing about Amazon, but before I get there, I want to ask this question. I want to ask this question of viewers as well. because we didn't do a guess this business, so I like to ask questions. What percentage of Amazon sales do you think are Amazon's own brands?
15 to 18%.
Okay, I'm giving it a long pause, quite a beat here, because I want other people at home to be like, okay, I wonder what it is now. Then Nick said 15 to 18. Amazon says it's 1% of their sales is Amazon sales, is Amazon branded products or like Amazon owned private label brands.
Wow,
of which they're shutting down most of them now. There's some FTC thing. They're keeping like Amazon Basics, so you can bet they're still going to be selling batteries.
Sure.
But I think they're going to stop selling their clone version of Allbirds, basically.
Wow.
But okay, that's the one thing I wanted to mention that about Amazon. But Amazon has recently been trying to push people to develop packaging so that when it ships out your stuff doesn't need to go inside another box. They can just slap a label on your box and ship it out.
I've been getting more packages like that.
They say, okay, here's another question then. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
What percentage of items that the company delivers now arrive without extra packaging? This is what Amazon calls ships in its own container. What percentage of packages do you think they ship out right now that don't require an Amazon box?
5%?
11%.
Oh, wow.
But that's pretty close. And so like, what do you think let me ask you this. What do you think the pros and cons are to having an Amazon box and not an Amazon box?
I mean, from a consumer standpoint, I would imagine better Amazon branding, of course.
When you get the Amazon box.
Yeah, it's also just always a clean box.
Yeah.
Easy to open, and you can fit multiple things in there.
Yeah. If you're ordering multiple items in a package, you need another box.
Exactly. And then single box is, usually it's actually a flimsy box. They're usually not good boxes. So products probably get destroyed more, and it's just you don't get an Amazon package.
Yeah. So there's a couple reasons that they're trying to do this. One is like, look, everyone has a bunch of photos that they've taken or thought when they're throwing out a bunch. Like, I'm doing a little bit of moving right now, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting so many boxes from Amazon.
Yeah.
Like so much trash, so much Amazon trash I've got. So like, it's better for the environment. Like, there's fewer boxes. It's also good for a cost perspective, right? Because now theoretically, Amazon isn't like adding a box to your box. And as a result, maybe they can lower their prices somehow or lower the percentage that they charge the sellers. They talked about this, and they said that there was one guy who sold screwdrivers, okay? And they helped them design a package so that they could just slap a label on it. And the tough part was with like screwdrivers, you got to be really careful about these packages because the screwdriver ends up, it's not a weapon, but like, it's a very sharp object. If your packaging isn't tough, that screwdriver is going to get through and going to hurt somebody. So they said that for 100,000 screwdriver packages that are shipped across 12 months for this one seller, the savings tied to this would be about $34,000.
Wow. Just by skipping the outer box?
That's right. And doing their own custom packaging. Like it could be more than just the outer box. It could be like, cost savings from cheaper shipping as well because they made it smaller or something.
Wow.
But they said for 100,000 screwdriver packages shipped across a year, it'd be $34,000.
Wow.
I think this is a great idea. I love, better for the environment, certainly cheaper. I think the other cons of this are that you might have a lot more stolen packages. Like if they deliver an Apple iPhone on your doorstep without a package, I'm going to steal that iPhone.
I'm definitely
I'm going over there and be like, oh, there's $1,000 right here. This is Nick Sharma's. He's got enough money. Let me take this thing. The other thing I'm going to get there's a little bit of embarrassment. Like if they slap a label to a big pack of toilet paper that you just got delivered, and I'd be like, Nick Sharma, that Indian guy is eating so much curry, he needs this family-sized roll of toilet paper. Jesus Christ. And then I think the experience, like I think the interesting part is that Amazon is sort of shifting the experience onto the brand. Yeah, exactly. Like now you come up with an unboxing experience through Amazon because your package is going to get delivered through us and make it as beautiful and as special as you would do through your own direct-to-consumer site.
Are they getting are the sellers getting anything monetarily out of that, or it's just like, hey buddy, we're gonna save 30 cents on the box
and we're keeping it all.
We're keeping it.
Yeah, that's I'm not sure about that. There's this great book. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It's called The Walmart Effect.
Okay.
We learned about it in law. I had this one amazing professor. I had many amazing professors in law school. One really special one, and he talked to me about the book, and I ended up reading it, and he's like, a long time ago, Walmart is the number one seller of deodorants in the country.
Yeah.
And this is pre-native. I was reading this book in 2008. He's like, Walmart told all of their suppliers, look, deodorants used to come in boxes. They would have the deodorant, the plastic component in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to, Walmart said to their suppliers, mainly to P&G and Unilever, and said, if you put your deodorant in a box, we're no longer going to carry it. You stop doing that. And so P&G and Unilever, who sell a ton of deodorants, were like, we're going to stop doing this. And Walmart saved 5 cents. Like Walmart was like, look, this is going to save on shipping because you're not shipping boxes. This is going to save on space because you're not shipping boxes. And this is going to save on cost because you're not shipping boxes. And so they're like, we demand a 5-cent price decrease. And they got that 5-cent price decrease, and they gave 2 pennies, or they kept 2 pennies and gave 3 to the consumer. And so they brought down their prices for deodorants by 3 pennies by saying, get rid of this box.
Wow.
Is Amazon going to do that? Incredibly unclear. Yeah. Incredibly unclear. But I thought it was really interesting that they were trying to do this.
Yeah.
I think it's good in that, like, it'll force, Brita has started creating an unboxing experience specifically for this, like, slap a label on it. Like, basically, they've created a box that if you buy that box, Amazon can just slap a label and the unboxing experience will be really wonderful. I do think that some of the costs get shifted to the seller, not only because of the unboxing experience, but also because, Brita filters come in really cheap cardboard.
Get a thicker box.
Yeah, you got to get much better corrugate in order and you got to pay for much better corrugate now.
Totally.
And so I think a lot of this costs are now shifted to the seller. Whether Amazon is thinking of this as a margin play, I've got no idea.
Yeah.
Or whether they're like, look, we're going to give this margin back to the consumer because you're now eating the cost of the box. I'm not sure, but I thought that was really interesting. So the other thing I read was that Amazon has doubled their warehouse network during COVID. So they decreased one of the reasons that they're able to do this is they're like, there's a lot less distance between our fulfillment center and the consumer.
Right.
We've dropped that distance 15% in the last 2 years by doubling our warehouse network. And we've decreased the number of touches of a box by 12%. Which is, I thought was really interesting. They're just like, look, we don't want to touch a box and we don't want to have to take it very far to drop this package off. And so they've done a good job of that. Like, we've doubled our footprint. And as a result, we can do this box thing, which is trying to save everyone money, or at least trying to save money.
Wow. Weren't they closing down a bunch too?
Yeah, I think they were like, more than doubling it. And now they're like pulling back a little bit because they're like, okay, e-commerce isn't the same as it was in 2020 anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, what's your next topic?
I was going to say we should go into your fashion topic.
Great. Okay. My fashion topic. There was this while we were between season 4 and season 5. There was this great article I thought on Allbirds, and this will parlay into that other brand that we talked about right when we got here as well, which is so Allbirds. Is a shoe company. I think if you were in e-commerce in 2017, you definitely knew Allbirds.
Allbirds, yeah.
If you started in e-commerce in 2022, I'm not sure you know what Allbirds is any longer.
Except just a failing stock.
Yeah, the stock is down by 90. The way they started was on Kickstarter. They raised $120,000 with Kickstarter. And what they did is they created these wool shoes. And then they, after raising this money and making the shoes, they started, they opened up they were based in San Francisco. They started sending these shoes to everyone in Silicon Valley. If you were the CEO of Sir Kensington's, if you were a partner at Sequoia or Andreessen Horowitz or Mavron, they're like, hey, wear these shoes. And then all of a sudden, people would be like walking around being like, what are these shoes? Oh, the CEO of my business wears them. Maybe I should wear them too. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really interesting. I think Patagonia did something similar where they're like, we're going to give discounts to like executives at Facebook and at VC funds, and then other people are going to wear them. In 2018, Allbirds set up shop inside the original Shake Shack in New York City for one day to sell limited edition sneakers. And the line was around the block. Like they had this cult following.
Yeah.
Then what happened, and this is what I find it really interesting, is they tried to come out with many new products, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, look, shoes are great. We need to be in a, I think at some point they must have had a discussion and been like, are we a shoe company? Or is this going to be Nike? Or is this going to be Lululemon? Are we an athleisure company? And I think they chose the second one.
Yeah.
So in this article in the Wall Street Journal said in 2021, they came out with wool leggings, and a model tried them on and walked in front of they had an all hands meeting and walked in front of everyone at their HQ. And employees noticed that the wool leggings were see-through. And one employee said, "I can see your underwear through them." Literally a case of the principal has no clothes or the king has no clothes.
Yeah.
And by then, Allbirds has already ordered tens of thousands of pairs.
Yikes.
And I think like one of the interesting parts of this is it's really difficult for brands to launch second products or third products or tertiary products once they find what success with the product. I think that was true with a bunch of brands. So let me talk about those brands. Native, we launched deodorants really well. We had at least a tough time in it. Like our second product was bar soap and it was no good.
Yeah.
And then it was body wash and then toothpaste. Like, it took us a while to find our footing with second products. Magic Spoon cereal, amazing. They launched like Pop-Tarts or something. I don't know how they're doing, but I don't see a lot about them. Cereal bars, that's right, yeah. Manscaped has a trimmer.
Yeah.
They've had hard, it's not been I don't know a brand that launched a second product, and that second product is 40%, 30, 40, 50% of sales.
Yeah.
Everyone's not a one-hit wonder, but
they'll find like 10%.
Exactly.
12%.
Yeah. Even like Stan socks.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I've seen Stan socks. I'm not wearing Stan's shirts, Stan's hats, Movement watches. I'm not like, you know what I see a lot of? Movement socks, Movement hats, Movement sunglasses. I know they exist. Movement sunglasses certainly do, but I don't see a ton of them.
Totally. You can't just rely on paid social and PPC for growth. Hundreds of brands like True Classic, Daily Harvest, and Manscaped have turned to TV advertising using Tatari's platform, and they're absolutely crushing their acquisition goals. Many of my own clients at Hooks also use Tatari.
We used them while I was at Native too, and I can tell you that their team is awesome and the measurement is just like digital. So you'll see site visits, purchases, or even installs from TV. Check out their 3-minute video at tatari.tv/limited supply. Why is that? Why can no one have two hits?
I mean, I personally, as a consumer, I will try to find a brand that's good at making one thing that I enjoy from it, but I don't expect it. There's some brands like, if Hexclad came out with something new in the kitchen, I would trust that the quality that I loved about the pans carries over there, and I would probably try that. But when it comes to things like apparel or personal care or beauty, I think people very much try to find one product that works, and they don't really care about the brand that much. They like that the product works, and it does whatever. It makes them look younger, feel younger, their skin's tighter, the shirt fits really well. Yeah. But like if the shirt fits really well, it doesn't mean that their pants are going to fit well, or like that they have the best running shoes either.
Yeah, I think that's been. I think that's interesting that you say that. I think that's true. If anybody has proven that is the thesis, is Procter and Gamble. Yeah, you don't see Tide making household cleaning products. They're like, this is laundry. This is fabric. They call it fabric. Laundry detergent only, right? They're like, Tide makes laundry detergent. Why doesn't it make a cleaner for your floor? Right. Or your dishes? They make Tide Pods. Why don't they have another brand called Cascade to clean your dishes? Why are those two separate brands? Why is Secret not making toothpaste, and why is Crest not making shampoo? And I think that they're of the belief that very few brands can cross categories.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think P&G probably does it best.
Yeah,
like very much. It's not that it's a single product, but it's a single focus.
Yes, it is a single focus. So I think I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm not sure what came first, the chicken or the egg here. P&G has siloed itself into like different divisions. There's like a fabric care division and there's a personal care division. And like, so, personal care division is the CEO of the personal care division doesn't make money if the fabric care division makes money. The fabric care division guy, I mean, they own P&G stock, but they don't make money if the personal care business does better. Right. So Tide isn't going to launch a deodorant anytime soon, and Old Spice isn't going to launch a laundry detergent anytime soon. Right. And when Native, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. When Native came out with toothpaste, we had to go all the way to the CEO of P&G to be like, hey, we want to launch toothpaste, because it was a different division and no one crosses divisions here. Wow. And so this happened way above my pay grade, but at somebody had a conversation, which it was, when this brand sells toothpaste, who gets the benefit? The person who runs personal care and bought Native, or the person who runs oral care and owns Crest and toothpaste? Right. And I don't know what the answer to that was. And I was also like, this is going to be $1 million. Like, this is nothing. You run Crest. This isn't, this is how much Crest is lost on the truck on the way to Target every day. So I don't know why you're that had to go to the CEO because nothing crosses divisions there.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think you're right. Like, it's very hard for a brand to cross categories and make more than one hit. Like, Athletic Greens still doesn't have 5 different wonder. Powders, right?
Yeah. But I also think their brand strategy is the fact that you don't need anything else. It's just the one product.
But don't you need something else if you're pregnant? Don't you need something else if you're 65 or older? Don't you need something else if you're going through menopause or puberty or 8?
Yeah. It really does require a complete different brand strategy, brand identity, tone of, everything from a brand standpoint almost has to be different.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you're right. It does
even Ritual, right? I wonder how successful the other lines of Ritual are outside of the first product they launched.
Yeah. Great question. I have no idea. And I think it is, and that's almost like supplements. And I would expect supplements to always sort of branch out, like Ollie or whatever it is. Athletic Greens has not launched any other product. And I do think that there was a little bit of genius in that. When we were going to sell our business, it made it a lot easier because we could go to anyone and be like, what do you Hint?
Yeah.
Hint Water had a deodorant. And I remember talking to Kara and thinking, look, Hint Water is amazing and the brand you built is amazing, but who's going to purchase this? Coca-Cola or Procter & Gamble? Right. And generally they're not going after the same business.
Right.
And when you're a one-hit wonder, or not a one-hit wonder, but have one product, you can go into a lot more conversations about M&A. And no one's like, oh no, there's all this baggage that I've got to deal with.
It's also the opportunity of what they can expand.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
The brand.
When we were selling the business, when we went to Unilever, we're like, look, you're based in Europe and you're really good at selling in Europe. We haven't touched Europe. Wouldn't you be good? Wouldn't this be a great product for Europe?
Yeah.
When we went to P&G, we're like, look, we don't know anything about brick and mortar stores. Do you guys know anything about brick and mortar stores? Because if so, this is going to be a great product there. And so it allowed us to be a lot more flexible when it came to our acquisition strategy. And I think that being a one-hit wonder, it's sort of like you get to be this diamond and anybody can fit it into any ring that they want.
Yeah.
And if you've already set that ring in there, you've already cut it and polished it, they're like, okay, this is the only diamond that's going to fit.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting, particularly with Allbirds, that this happened to them and thinking about second products. The brand has suffered a lot. In 2022, they did $300 million in revenue. They lost $100 million. In their IPO, they had co-CEOs. They didn't sell any stock. They have a lot of unsold inventory. In 2022, they took $13 million write down on unsold inventory. And then this year they hired BCG, and BCG was like, go back to your fundamentals. Fewer store openings, more direct to consumer.
Why didn't they hire us?
Shoes. Yeah. That does seem like a very simple thing to understand.
$200,000 to hear that.
Yeah, that's right. But look, I've been thinking about other apparel brands that have had a tough time. And a couple of these I've heard from the Rumorville.
Yeah.
And I'm going to mention their names, although, this is dangerous, but I think it'll be okay because this will come out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
One is Parade. I know they're having a tough time. One is Outdoor Voices. I don't know if they're having a tough time or what's going on, but both I've heard from multiple sources. I wouldn't have said anything unless I'd heard this from multiple sources. And nobody told me this in confidence in terms of me being like, hey, Moiz, you can't talk about this. No one said, hey, Moiz, you're an investor. Would you be interested in investing in this?
Right.
In that context. I heard this from other contexts, which is you have a podcast, you should talk about this stuff. And so I think these apparel brands have had a tough time. There's a new brand called Sporty and Rich. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of this brand?
Oh, yeah.
What do you know about it?
It's so this girl, Emily Oberg, she's a huge Complex host back in probably 8 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. She would always have the best interviews for Complex Media. And then
did you watch them 7 or 8 years ago? Really?
Yeah, she was a great host. I think she made and probably led to some extent Complex's growth in video.
Wow.
And she would do these she would even host workouts with artists or rappers or whatever. It was always just good content. It was innovative content. And then she left and I think started creative directing as a freelancer, maybe for Kith and then maybe a couple other cool spots.
Yeah.
And then she started launching her own brand, Sporty and Rich. And I believe she's also launching a physical like social club or something like that, or might be a part of launching one.
Yeah.
But I think she's got a store in Soho that's either open or about to be open. And I forget who I was talking to. Somebody I know knows her super well and said her brand is on fire, completely bootstrapped and on fire.
How much revenue do you think on fire means? They do have a spa. Wow. Okay.
I think it's cool. Like mid to late 8 figures, something like that.
So there was an article about him recently in the New York Times, and they said they were anticipating doing $28 to $32 million this year.
That's amazing.
Which is crazy. They do have a spa and a store, which is also a little bananas.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting article. I'd never heard of the brand. I started seeing what are those things called where like people just put up
bills?
ads? Yeah, bills. Yeah. On like
poster bills.
Yeah, exactly. On like construction sites in New York City. And I was like, is this a good name? Because I'm not sure people want to be wear clothes that say rich.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm very wrong.
Do you remember that iPhone app, the $1,000 iPhone app?
I am rich. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That guy is a genius.
Yeah.
Give people context in case they don't know what it is.
Yeah, it was like this was back, I think, when the App Store started. It was just an iPhone app. Mostly everything was free, and this was an iPhone app for $999.99.
Which is the max an app could be.
Yeah, and you just open it, and I think it just said, I am rich.
Yeah, it was just like a red light, and it said, I am rich, and I think they had like 5 sales.
Yeah.
And then they got shut. Like the Wall Street Journal wrote an article, the New York Times, somebody wrote an article about them, shut them, and then Apple like pulled the app.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is a great app. The guy did nothing, but he charges $1,000.
$5,000 in EBITDA.
It's basically that's right. Yeah. It's basically Louis Vuitton for your iPhone.
Yeah.
Anyway, this brand is doing 28 to 32 million. It was a really interesting article. Apparently, like she started this business with a guy. Like she flew to Paris, and this guy and her were going to start the business, or were thinking about starting the business. And the first day they met each other in Paris, they fell in love with each other.
Wow.
And they said, like in this article, they said, "I love you" on the first day that they met in Paris. And they started selling the brand, and the guy who lives in Paris is like, holy shit, you have a real following. She started this Instagram handle called Sporty and Rich a long time ago. You have a real following. There's a wait list of people who want to buy your products. You go build the brand. I will build the business. And that's what they've been like. They're not together anymore, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure I have this all right. But they're not together anymore. And, like she's built this is a real brand doing a lot of revenue.
Wow.
What do you think happens?
And I think it's bootstrapped.
I think it's bootstrapped as well.
Yeah.
What do you think happened? The guy, I think most of the operations are based in Paris, and the guy has, I think I read that they had 25 employees at the time of the writing of this New York Times article. What happens to this brand 10 years from now? Is this a brand 10 years from now, or is this dead 10 years from now?
I feel like it has a very good chance of being a brand that that ends up in a fashion house, like holding company, or gets traded around multiple times. I don't think it, like, I think it has potential to be up there with like a Versace or a Jimmy Choo or something like that.
Wow. I don't know enough about the brand to opine, but like, I think it's really difficult for brands like this to live for 10. Like you need such, how many brands have existed for 10 years in the clothing space that are still doing well?
I think, but I also think, like, for example, if Outdoor Voices grew slower, I think they would have lasted 10 years.
Outdoor Voices grew slower.
Like Outdoor Voices almost got so much cash and then had to return the cash and then basically blew all their cash. And they just kind of like destroyed the brand in the process of doing that.
I do think that Outdoor Voices could have lasted longer. But I think here's 2 things. One, I don't think it was a cash issue. I think it was a management issue. And I think Ty said that when she's like, it was me and Mickey and the VC board all fighting and all pulling in different directions. And that was like leading to an implosion of the business. But like, could Outdoor Voices last with Viore and 400 other companies launched in this space?
Yeah, there are
Aloe
so
Yoga,
many.
Is Viore 10 years from now, is Viore going to be Lululemon? I would be stuck. Like even Lululemon, I feel like when it was the only guy in town, it had its heyday. Is it still? Is Lululemon as powerful today as it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Yeah,
I think
good
no.
question.
And so I think very few of these brands last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so if I were running a brand like this, I might be like, let me take as much, let me draw as much water from this well as I can while it's here. I don't know what happens 10 years from now. I don't know. I don't know anybody who's built a brand where I'm like 10 years from now, this is going to be an insane brand. I don't think Outdoor Voices could have been the next Lululemon with 400 other competitors coming out.
Yeah, I do think one thing Sporty and Rich has going for them is it is similar to like the older, like a Kate Spade or like where it's a very close tie to whoever the person is making the clothes or designing the clothes. They have that with Sporty and Rich, where I feel like a lot of the other brands in the athleisure space don't.
A lot of the other, I'm sorry, say that again. What?
So like Kate Spade, designed by Kate Spade.
Yes.
Jimmy Choo, designed by Jimmy Choo. Sporty and Rich and Emily are very closely tied to each other. Whereas like an outdoor, you have no idea who's designing Outdoor Voices or Lululemon or Viore.
That's true. But I think that I don't expect the designer to be the designer for more than a hot second. Like when I buy, I've never bought Coco Chanel, but I think Coco Chanel's dead. And I'm not like, Coco Chanel designed this,
Yeah.
Gucci has a new designer, I believe, every few years.
Yeah.
I don't think Jimmy Choo is the guy who's designing the shoes any longer. And I think Kate Spade is all. I'm not sure if she's passed away.
She's passed away.
Okay, yeah. I don't she's certainly not designing Kate Spade anymore. And so I think that I think it's nice that there is that separation though.
Yeah.
I don't know how these brands last 10 years. I hope they do. I love seeing these types of brands exist.
Yeah.
And I love, I'm wearing 10,000. I love them. But
what do you think makes, or what characteristics do you think the brands have that have the power to be bought and sold constantly, like Juicy Couture or Quicksilver?
Yeah.
Like these are brands that, very mediocre products when they were out, but like they have the power. They'll be traded for the next 100 years.
Yeah, I would say let me answer that question second, but let me answer this other question first, which is I think Allbirds is a good example of like how hard it is for a founder who started a young, small business to grow into running a massive business.
Yeah.
I think those are incredibly difficult skill sets. And I think the founders of Allbirds have, navigated that really well.
Do you think if Allbirds sold to private equity earlier and a different executive team and different strategy was put in, it would be in a different spot?
Yes. Much better spot.
Yeah.
And
where do you think that sweet spot is?
I don't know where it is, but I think the native would not be what it is today if P&G hadn't purchased it. I couldn't have done this.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done this.
Yeah.
And I think maybe next time I could, because I saw us grow beyond my abilities. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And so I do think that there is that point where brands should bring in talented outside talent that is going to be additive, that is either strategic or intelligent or, just more experienced. Yeah. And I think True Classic did a really good job of this. They brought in Ben really early on. Ben's a genius. And I was like, look, these guys recognize that they had a hole in this type of marketing space and they brought in an executive for this.
Right.
I think bringing in a shoe executive could be helpful. I don't know what it would be like for Allbirds today. Yeah. I think it might be too late, unfortunately. I think that the brand is lost its cachet.
Yeah.
But let me go back to the, so I think, yes, I think that sold to private equity or sold earlier, it could have had a different outcome. I think going back to your question, which is why can Juicy Couture still get traded 100 times? Two reasons. One, it's like Crocs. It's going to have some sales. It's going to have some brick and mortar distribution forever for some reason. It just has inertia.
By the way, I think Native's in this category too. I think Native will get bought and sold for the next 100 years.
P&G doesn't really maybe it will. I don't know.
Or
P&G
it'll at least exist.
Yeah. I think it'll exist as well because it's found a home where, it's a large brand. I think it'll do about $500 million this year.
Wow.
And, it's a real brand with real income. Right. For a company that cares about real brands and real income. But I think the Juicy Coutures of the world, I think they get bought and sold for two reasons. One is they always have some brick and mortar presence that generates some sales. So it's almost like buying an annuity. Buy Juicy Couture for I don't know what the prices are or how much revenue is. Buy it for $1 billion. Every year it'll earn you $80 million. Are you okay with those numbers? If the economy gets better, maybe it'll earn you 120. Yeah. If the economy gets worse, maybe it'll earn you 40 or 60. Are you okay with that type of risk? It's almost like buying a bond or a CD or putting your money in a savings account.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. And I think another part of it is somebody is I can revive this brand. I think the one brand I could revive would be Reebok. I'd be like, or starter jackets. Give me starter jackets. You know, that brand that we were all like, I don't know if you're too young for this, but starter jackets were huge when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They were super expensive. Everyone wanted one. I never had one. They were fakes. I think people were killed for their starter jacket.
Wow.
I almost killed a guy for his starter jacket. But like, you know, there are some brands that can be revived like that. Like, you know, who's doing a good job of this right now? Wilson, the tennis company.
Yeah.
You know, now there's this tennis, whatever is going on. They've created beautiful clothes now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were just tennis balls. They're like, here's this tennis racket. I think they have a store in Soho now.
Yeah,
as well.
do.
Like they've revived that brand. And I think there are opportunities to revive brands like that. And I think that's part of the reason those brands are traded. But I think part of it is also their annuities because they're in brick and mortar stores and you'll always get that annuity from them.
Yeah. This leads into, did you see the Tapestry acquisition?
Yes.
So Tapestry bought Capri, which owns Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, and Versace for $8.5 billion. And I think the Tapestry market cap is $9.5 billion.
Wow.
So they basically got a bunch of debt, bought this thing all cash.
Yeah.
And I also thought the revenue split was interesting. So Michael Kors does close to $4 billion in revenue. Versace does $1 billion, and Jimmy Choo's only $600 million.
Michael Kors does $4 billion in revenue.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Wow. See, this is what I wear. Like, people aspire to wear Jimmy shoes. How do you pronounce Choo?
Jimmy Choo, yeah.
Jimmy Choo. People aspire to wear that and probably be the CEO of that. I aspire to be Michael Kors.
100%.
You know, look at that.
Look at that, yeah.
Kind of mediocre, like upscale, like, you know, it's like upscale middle class.
Yeah, exactly. They call it like near luxe. Not luxe, but
Prestige,
like near
yeah,
luxe.
mastige or something.
Yeah. But they, you know, there's like right now it's in the phase of, I mean, we're recording this August 12th. So acquisition wise, it's basically an Excel sheet analysis. It's not like they haven't really gone into why they bought it. But some of the things they mentioned was Capri has a much higher penetration in Europe, while Tapestry has a much higher penetration in Asia. So they'll be able to cross sell much better and cross distribute.
Wow.
They'll be able to broaden their product offering because Capri has much higher penetration in footwear and apparel. And then also Tapestry is way better and stronger in D2C and e-commerce, which they'll get to take advantage of.
That's awesome.
But I also think a lot of people compare it to LVMH, which I think is still just, 4 or 5x away from these two companies combining. But the other thing was like with the acquisition, a lot of these fashion houses, they license their name. Like when Tom Ford does perfume, they license it to Estee Lauder,
sure,
and they just get paid a licensing fee. And I feel like this would, because their categories are so different, they'll actually get a lot of supply chain advantages and probably savings. Instead of just licensing, they'll get a lot more of that margin.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you say that. At Native, there was no synergies. Like we never moved production of P&G. Warren Buffett, like, remember when we had Keith on the, I don't know what season that was anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I was like, you're buying all of these e-commerce businesses. What synergies are you seeing? Because I remember I asked him a loaded question because I was like, Warren Buffett, Warren Buffett owns a lot of businesses, right? I think he owns like NetJets, which is airplanes. He owns Burlington Northern, which is a railroad.
Yeah.
He owns Nebraska Furniture Mart. And people are like, what synergies do you see across these businesses? And he's like, there are none. He's like, nobody's ever bought a business and found a synergy. It's very hard to run. No one CEO can run two businesses.
Yeah.
No one CFO can run two businesses. Are there cost savings when you're buying QuickBooks when you have two businesses? If you have three businesses, you pay Klaviyo 3 different bills right now. It's not like Klaviyo's like, oh, you have 3 businesses, let's give you a discount.
Yeah.
No. And so I'm not sure if there are synergies to be had. And like, to be honest, I'm not sure if like Coach and Kate Spade are like, they're like, what we need to do is reduce costs.
Yeah.
Like, the item that it costs them $5 to sell, they sell for $400. If they buy for $4, that's not a big deal.
Right.
It's, can they sell for $600? Now? Right. But maybe there are. I don't know. Everyone talks about synergies.
Yeah.
And I think no one ever finds them.
Yeah. That's a fair point. But it is going to be interesting though to see what happens to Versace. I feel like that's kind of like one of those brands where it's a sleeper brand and could probably get blown up more.
Yeah, that's right. It reminds me of like, Starter or Reebok.
Yeah.
And that's actually what happened to Gucci. Like Gucci was hot for a while, and I'm not sure if it still is, but someone brought it back. Like they got this new designer in like 2015 or 2014. And then everyone was wearing that Gucci belt with the 2 G's on it.
Yeah.
And now I think it's like illegal to wear it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's a pretty big acquisition for an American fashion
Huge
company.
acquisition. $8.5 billion in cash.
Yeah.
I wonder, so the other thing it had me thinking about was this is like 2 massive American fashion houses coming together. Yeah. I think this is probably the biggest acquisition in American fashion history, maybe. But then it got me thinking, I wonder if the government's involved, because then it's basically Tapestry is now maybe the biggest in the US compared to like LVMH in Europe. And LVMH sells a ton of product here. I don't think Tapestry combined will sell a ton of product in Europe, comparatively.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it's almost like playing chess. Like it's a higher level of chess. It's not just, let's just get revenue and synergies.
I'm sure that's the case. I don't think anyone would be like, this is just synergies. We're going to save costs here.
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea for an acquisition. There has to be a belief that you can do something amazing with it. And LVMH have done such a good job of buying brand. Like LVMH bought Tiffany's. They're just
they're also so diversified. Even this, right? There's
Cognac.
Just clothing.
Yeah.
They've got Belvedere and Dom Perignon.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're in some hotels now.
Yeah. They're basically like, we understand that people will buy iconic brands no matter what because they're iconic,
right?
And that's what we care about. It's we were both thinking about investing in a business that we both passed on, and one of our friends was like, "Look, my goal is to invest in the best provider of this service, no matter who it is." It wasn't Klaviyo, but let's say the Klaviyo's of the world and not the Sendlanes of the world. And you and I were both like more cautious about it because we were like cautious about the valuation. But they're almost like that. They're like, we want to invest in the best. We don't care about price.
Yeah.
Because our consumers won't care about price too. In some respects.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think that's a wrap for this. Was there anything else? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That was it. Okay, this was a great episode.
This is a really good episode. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Our next episode is going to be a Q&A from people in the Slack channel.
Yeah.
There were so many good questions here. I took a look at them but earlier today, or earlier when we were getting ready for this. There's so many good questions in that Slack group. I can't wait to get into that. So
it's going to be
stick around for season 4 next week.
Episode
4. Sorry, next week. Yes.
All right. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise in CPG, retail, and e-commerce.
And if you enjoyed this episode, then why not share it with a friend? And be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on.